Thanks for joining me for today's tutorial. We're going to be making this adorable paw print shadow box. Now to do this project, you're going to need the cut file from my blog post, and that's a free file you can get from my resource library. Once you get it, you're going to want to unzip the file and then decide, do you want the upright heart or the upside down heart? Whichever one you use is up to you. Just make sure that when you're selecting your cardstock and your vinyl files that you're picking the same one. So to start with, we're going to grab our cardstock file, whichever one you like, the upside down or right side up heart, and we're going to load that into our Cricut canvas, in Design Space. Now once that comes in, it's going to come in pretty big, so you're going to want to move it to your up left corner of your canvas so you can see it a little better, and then resize it to 6.5 inches if you're using the same shadow box I mentioned in my blog post, or whatever size you need for the shadow box that you've got on hand. Next, you're going to right click and you're going to attach. This will make sure that all the pieces of the paw print stay together. Next, you're going to click Make It and follow the prompts. Now make sure when you cut this out that your Cricut machine is set to cardstock. And for this you can use any cardstock or paper you want. This is really just a template for us. And you're going to put your cardstock or paper on either the light or standard grip mat for this project. Now once it's done cutting, we're going to flip it over and we're going to remove the cardstock from it, but not until we put transfer tape on top. Now I will say I did try the press and seal to see if that would work instead of transfer tape with this project, and I'll say it did not work great. I got it to work, but I don't recommend it. Stick to your regular transfer tape. Now when removing the backing, you're going to want to flip it upside down so that you don't curl your cardstock at all. This way we're pulling back the mat from the cardstock instead of peeling the cardstock off the mat. Now you're going to move the extra cardstock as well, and then carefully check to make sure that all the pieces are connected to the transfer tape. Next, you're going to add hot glue to each of the pieces of the paw print. Do this quickly to make sure that the hot glue doesn't dry before you transfer it. Now carefully flip it over and center it as best as you can inside of your shadow box and push down to make sure that it really sticks on there. I usually like to hold it until I feel the glue cool a little bit. Now remove your transfer tape, in my case press and seal, but again I don't recommend it. And just make sure that all the pieces are adhering and not moving as you do that. This shouldn't be a problem if you've held onto it until it cooled a little bit. Alright, now next we're going to use our pre-rolled flowers. Included in the files that you download for this project, I've got 2 flower templates, and I will link to all the tutorials you need to learn how to roll these flowers in the blog post itself. I've got everything you need to know about rolling flowers linked in my blog post. Now the first thing you're going to want to do with your pre-rolled flowers is position them on top of the pieces of the paw print. Again, think of the cardstock we just cut out as your template for the flowers that you're putting on. Now you want to use small flowers. The smaller are probably better for this. I use flowers that I already had on hand that were pre-rolled. Now just position them to make sure that you've got your flowers kind of in the right places that you like before you glue them down. And as you can see, I did move mine around quite a bit. I actually cut this video down so you didn't have to watch the whole thing, but I did move them around a lot just to get them to where I was happy. Alright, now once you do have them where you want them, we are going to hot glue them in. Just make sure that when you're doing it, you're not pushing any of the other flowers out of the way. Just very carefully lift up your flowers as you do that. Now I will say though, while you're gluing them in, you can push the flowers together a little bit better than when you were just positioning them to see where they are. So this is an option for you if you like your flowers to be really dense. And you'll see I do that here. I kind of hold them down and push them together to make sure that they stick. Alright, now next we're going to upload the vinyl file into Cricut Design Space and cut it out like you see here. Make sure that you change the setting on your Cricut Design Space or on the machine itself to cut vinyl, not cardstock, otherwise you'll cut all the way through. Now you can carefully remove the outside of the vinyl from this project by hand without needing any tool because it is some pretty simple shapes. But to get the insides of the paw print, I recommend using a weeding tool, which you see I use here. Now to use the weighting tool, you just want to kind of poke at the inside close to the edge and then pull back and it comes off really easily. These are very simple shapes, so it should not be hard to weed at all. All right, there we go. All right, now next we are going to remove it from the mat and then we're going to put transfer tape on top of this piece so that we can transfer this all together, all positioned correctly onto our shadow box. Now before we get too much further here, we're going to need to do a few things to our shadow box, and I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. Alright, now if you use the same shadow box that I link in my blog post, I've used this for a lot of projects and I love this shadow box. You're going to want to open the backing and then you're going to find the pane of glass inside the back. Just be careful when you touch it that you don't smudge it with your fingers. Now remove the part that we glued everything to and carefully set that to the side. And then you're going to see an inner piece there, a kind of inner wooden piece. That's a spacer. You're going to want to take that out. We're going to put it back, but we'll take it out for right this moment. And then we're going to put the pane of glass inside of the shadow box, put it in place, put our spacer back in, and then put the part of the where we glued all the flowers and the paw print to, and then close our shadow box up. Now just a note about this, some people do like to put the vinyl on the inside of the shadow box instead of on the outside. That is an option here if your vinyl does look the same on the back as it does on the front. If you're going to do that, I still recommend doing the step as you see here so that you can position everything well and then you can open it back up and flip the glass around. All right, there we go. Now the only difficult thing about this step is just making sure that you line up your paw print. So to do that, we're going to fold back some of the backing from the vinyl so that we expose just about an inch or two of the vinyl, and that lets us press it down into place, check that we like where it is, and even reposition if we need to without having to toss the whole thing and start over. Alright, now just pull up the edges and the bottom, make sure that your paw print, the vinyl paw print, is where you need it to be and it lines up with what's inside the shadow box. And then the bottom part, the backing to your vinyl, we're just going to slide that out very carefully while pushing down on the vinyl from the top. So you're going to slide the bottom out while pushing down on the top to make sure that it transfers really nicely and everything stays in place. Alright, well that is all you're going to have to do for this project. I hope you loved it as much as I do, and make sure to go download your file so you can try it today.